Hello and welcome back to Square Talking, the Cheshire Freemasons podcast. You've got your hosts with us today. Your regular host, it's me, Keith Lloyd. We've got Iain Collins.
Hello, everyone.
And Neil Lloyd.
Hello.
Okay, guys, so what have we been up to recently, Masonically and outside Freemasonry?
I've finally not been working. I had a couple of days off, so that was good. So family time, doing lots of stuff with Air Cadets. I do Air Cadets as well. So been busy with Air Cadets as well and family.
I used to be in the Air Cadet.
Oh, did you?
I was in the ATC, 1175 Prenton Squadron.
No, that's one of the squadrons I command. I command 10 squadrons for my sins.
Oh, right.
So I look after all of the squadrons that on the Wirral and Chester and the Isle of Man as well. So reached the lofty rank of squadron leader. So that's what I do with Air Cadets. I manage a sector, which is very exciting, and I enjoy it. It keeps me busy, as well as Freemasonry. It keeps me really busy. But Freemasonry-wise, we've obviously just had our first meeting back. Very exciting, our installation meetings. We can talk a little bit more about what that is later on, but we've had our installation meeting, and we've got 3 live candidates coming up, 3 firsts. Very exciting planning for that. So,
Yeah.
Good. How about you guys?
Yeah, well, I've been spending a heck of a lot of time decorating the house, and I've come to the conclusion that I absolutely hate decorating and I find it tedious. But
depends what you're doing. Wallpapering, yes. Painting is not as bad.
It's just that you're standing with your face about 12 inches from a wall, constantly looking at it, thinking, "Have I done that bit or haven't I done that bit?"
Oh, you've got decorating OCD.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, there we are. That's just found something that really I do not like doing is decorating. Masonry wise, I'm a member of the Knights Templar, so we've recently had a meeting of that. That was really enjoyable. And I've not been to a craft meeting recently, but I have got one coming up soon, and we're going to be doing a podcast from that. I think we're going to be recording live Q&A session at that, so that's something I'm really looking forward to. Neil, what have you been up to?
I've been looking after a dog with a pooey bum.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh, no. You've been feeding the dog kebab again.
No, I woke up, he's been bin diving, and I woke up this morning to find that my hallway was a river of effluence. He'd even gone into my laundry room and had squirted over my dirty clothes, so that was a nightmare.
Well, at least they were dirty.
Yes. Oh. And then he sits there and just looks at me all sad.
Yeah.
So between you and seagulls and dogs.
He doesn't do well with animals, really. It's kind of like a
reverse Dr. Dolittle.
A reverse all creatures great and small, really, with you, isn't it? Just doesn't do well with animals. So what was he bin diving?
It might have been some spag bowl that I'd made, but I'd made it slightly spicy by putting chilli in it and a bit of mustard.
Kind of feel like you've only got yourself to blame here, because who messes with spag bol with heat?
Oh no, it's nice, and you put a little bit of brown sugar in there. It's nice.
Okay,
right.
That's my secret to spag bol.
Yeah, it might be nice for you, but not necessarily a dog.
Yeah. Masonic wise, I attended a chapter meeting and got there, and I had the dreaded tap on the shoulder, and they asked me if I'd fill in for a role for the evening. So I ended up having one of the main roles there, which is what they call J. So that was an interesting evening of suddenly being thrown into one of the lead roles in a chapter, and then finding out that they do the ritual differently to my own chapter.
Well, this is kind of like ties in really well with our theme for today's podcast, which is it's not just the journey through lodge officers in a Masonic lodge, but then it's also what comes beyond that and what other, we're going to touch on continuing and side degrees in Freemasonry. So if we set the scene, there's different steps. The first 3 steps of your Masonic journey, you've got your initiation, which is your first degree when you're an entered apprentice. And that's the first step in the craft. So your candidate gets initiated, you take your obligations, and you're admitted to the lodge as an entered apprentice. And that's the beginning of your Masonic journey. So then you have your passing, and that's the second degree, and that makes you into a fellow craft. And the second degree or passing marks further progress. So the brother acquires more knowledge about Freemasonry and further understanding, and that's especially in the symbolic and moral teachings of craft. And then finally, you have your raising, or your third degree, your Master Mason. That's the culmination of the 3 craft degrees. And at that point, once you've gone through your third degree, the brother is raised to the degree of a Master Mason and receives the higher symbolism and the responsibilities associated with it. So that's your first 3 steps. But then what happens after that? Because your Masonic journey doesn't just stop once you've gone through your first 3 degrees. And also, what does the Masonic ladder look like? So when you're in a lodge as a brother, as an entered apprentice, a fellow craft, or a Master Mason, what does that journey look like, and what are the different lodge offices which you can go into?
Yes, it's a really interesting topic. So you've obviously gone through the ceremony of being a third degree, and then you might think, oh, what's next? So there is what we call the ladder, which is a progression system that we have inside the lodge, which is whoever invented it was obviously very clever, because you learn a little bit about the next job while you're doing your current job, if that makes sense. So you start off with what we call as the inner guard, and that's the person that stands just inside the door of the lodge, and their job is to admit Masons and make sure that the door is guarded at all time. And then from there, we move to a role called the junior deacon, which is his job is to do a lot of the moving of people around the lodge. And he is there to report to the senior deacon, who's the third step. So the junior deacon sorts out the initiation. So he's in charge of the initiation pretty much. And then the senior deacon conducts the candidate around for the sort of second and third degree. And they do a lot of the floor work that we have in the lodge. And then we move into the big dog roles after that as you start to get to the big chairs, which are for a junior warden who's in the south, and then the senior warden is in the west. And obviously you get to the big job, that what we call the chair, is the worshipful master, and he is the person who is in charge of the lodge, and he runs the show. But each role teaches us something new and has different parts of the roles to play. And the ladder is a mix of tradition and mentorship and personal growth. And I think for me, there is a lot of nerves, I think, that sometimes comes out with people in their roles. One of the funniest things, which I think I've witnessed in a lodge so far, was maybe last year now, I think, is that when a new member joins, we do something called a ballot, and we use these balls. We use a white ball and black balls.
And that's where the phrase somebody being blackballed comes from, doesn't it?
Yeah, so if you get one black ball, that means you're not allowed to come into the lodge. So we go round and we carry these balls round to everyone, and they each get given a white and a black one, and then you put it into the voting thing. But on the way back, our junior deacon made a terrible error and dropped about 30 white marbles all over the floor. In the middle of the ceremony, they went absolutely everywhere, caused carnage. So we picked up all the white balls, and as we just finished picking up all the white balls, he dropped the black balls, and they all went everywhere as well. It was one of the most comical scenes I've seen for a while in the lodge. But as I said, the ladder is a progressive system of learning. It's all building you up over that 7-year period, up to the what we call the chair, the worshipful master's role, where you are the person who's running the lodge. You are the boss, technically, if that makes sense. And the boss, which is the master, is helped out by the senior and junior warden. and they are the sort of three people that control the lodge. As makes sense. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah. Being a worshipful master is a high point in any Mason's career, really, isn't it?
Yes, but I think the interesting thing to explore is that if you join Freemasonry, you don't necessarily have to go on the ladder. You don't have to follow that progression. It's brilliant if you do, but you can just sit and not necessarily go on the ladder. You still have to go through the first degree, the second degree, and the third degree. But you don't necessarily have to work your way up through in regard to worshipful master.
Yeah, I think this is what's great about Freemasonry is that everyone's journey is unique and different, and you are in control of what that journey looks like. Like, I paused at junior warden for 2-3 years because I wasn't quite ready to take on the responsibility of being the master, and that it wasn't quite right in my life at that time. And so my lodge really nicely let me pause in the junior warden's chair, and I sat there for 2 years or so, and people jumped over me. And then eventually I was like, okay, let's carry on, and we moved forward. And my dad is still not gone on the ladder. Certainly he's been in the same amount of time as me, about 15 years, but I think he's going to start next year.
I did the same as you, Ian. Just right before I was due to go into the worshipful master's chair, our mother passed away, and our lodge very graciously said, "This isn't a problem. If you need some time, step away from the ladder." And I stepped away, and I didn't go back onto the ladder for a number of years.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing with the ladder is that don't be surprised if you're somewhere and if you've already gone through a role, that someone might just ask you just to step in to do a previous role just because somebody hasn't turned up on the night or something's happened. Because it surprised me when I was on the ladder and I went through the roles of how much information that you're just absorbing through osmosis, through watching things repeatedly, that it does just all stick, if you're lucky enough, it does just all stick in your head.
Yeah, and I think that is also the benefit of coming to what we call an LOI, which is a lodge of instruction. That's basically a practice night where we go and practice what we're about to do, because nothing is perfect without practice. So I think the LOIs are really important, especially for if you're on the ladder, for giving you that chance to mess up in a non environment that might cause you a bit more stress. I know people can get stressed in the nights when they've got to perform, and it's no drama if you do mess up, and that's what's nice about it.
No, that's it. Yeah, I mean, I know personally for me that, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before, that I think Freemasonry has been really good for me with developing public speaking. Because, not everyone as part of their job has to stand up in a room full of people and, and speak openly. And I think that's been really good for me in developing that skill.
So you basically do a year as worshipful master, and then you become the past master. And they sit next to the worshipful master, ready to help him or prompt him if he needs it. Or if the worshipful master can't attend the meeting for some reason, you're expected to take the worshipful master's chair. But that isn't the end of the journey, because there are then other roles that you can go on to do in the lodge to help the lodge continue with its duties. So you could become the secretary. You are assistant secretary at the moment, aren't you, in your lodge? As am I, in fact. And then you could also maybe go on to become the director of ceremonies. So that's the person who, if you extrapolated to being like a movie, that they would be the director, calling the shots, telling people where to stand and what to say.
Mm-hmm.
So each role is really of importance. As you've gone out of the master's chair and you go into these different roles, you're the supporting the younger brethren as they come up. We have lodge mentors who come in and, will help younger, less experienced brothers to understand what's going on around them as they progress up through their degrees and the ladder themselves.
I mean, I think one of the things which is a sign of a really good and a really healthy lodge, and it's touching on what Iain said before, is that it is that support and that encouragement, that understanding that people do mess up sometimes, but also it's that understanding that people have lives outside of Freemasonry as well, so maybe you might have to miss a meeting because something occurs. And I think that's part of that support and that mentoring, is knowing that that's all there for you as a Freemason. And if you need to call on anyone for help, that help will always be provided.
Yeah, family and work obviously comes first. And obviously, like for me, shift work, it causes a hassle with the Masonic diary. Sometimes I can make it, sometimes I can't. So, and obviously people, if you're on the ladder, then obviously people jump in and support and do the work for you when you've got to go to work or you've got family stuff. So that's always one of the main drivers of Freemasonry, is that family and work come ahead of all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys find more difficult, learning the ritual or managing your masonry around your life?
I'd say learning the ritual is tricky. So I'm gonna give a kind of like a two-way answer on this, right? Learning the ritual is tricky, fitting it around your non-Masonic calendar, I think. So it's I think that was the difficult bit for me, because how I do it now is if I'm learning something, I've just got it on when I'm walking the dog and I'm kind of like running through it in my head and what have you. But finding those opportunities where you can do it, that's where I found that a bit tricky.
I normally do it on the drive to and from work. So I've got about half an hour. I know I've got half an hour there, so I play it over and over in the car. But I've got a very slightly photographic memory, so I need to look at the book to then visualize the page, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. So you don't listen to it when you're flying a plane then or anything.
And I try not to. I have been trying to learn some chapter stuff, and it's in my flight bag.
Yeah.
But yeah, I occasionally pull it out to read.
And as we all know, I found learning the ritual dead easy, and I know every word.
You know every word, yeah, every word.
Yeah, we have said that before. Yeah, we can just ask you any question.
Page 72, Neil. What is that?
Yeah, and he just knows it every word.
I don't think a bigger Masonic fib has ever been said than when I uttered those words.
No. So the next step in your Masonic journey, once you've gone through the chair, and when you've done your 3 degrees, should I say, not when you've gone through the chair, but when you've done your 3 degrees, is to consider whether you would join the Royal Arch. So under the United Grand Lodge of England, or UGLE, I
don't think they like that term.
Do they not? No.
I don't think they do.
All right, let's call them the United Grand Lodge of England then. Okay, given their full title. The Royal Arch is considered the completion of the craft journey. So the difference with the Royal Arch from a craft lodge is there's 3 principles in the Royal Arch. They wear different colours and symbols to what you would wear in craft Freemasonry. And also the Royal Arch explores deeper spiritual and symbolic truths about oneself. So it's about identity, about purpose and rediscovery. So there's again in the Royal Arch, there's different chapter officers and responsibilities. And what we're going to do is, in a future episode, we're going to come back to the Royal Arch. We're going to get a representative from the Royal Arch to come and talk to us, and we can go through those chapter officers and responsibilities. But also, as listeners, if there's any questions which you would like to hear about the Royal Arch and what that involves, then please do let us know, and we'll bring that up on the next podcast. I mean, for myself, I am a member of the Royal Arch, and you might hear it being called Royal Arch. Sometimes it's called Chapter, but I found the ceremony for the Royal Arch to be really interesting because the Royal Arch is so colourful, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's my main thing was when I joined the Royal Arch, was to find out how colourful it is.
So far in my Masonic journey, the Royal Arch has been my favourite.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. Why is that?
I just love the rituals that we do there. For some reason, I found them easier to learn than as opposed to craft. As you say, it is so much more colourful. It's the story that it tells. I found was fascinating. I just really love Royal Arch.
And both Neil and I's Royal Arch chapter is actually older than the province of Cheshire. So it is a really old chapter. So we do things slightly differently than other chapters, which again, it's kind of like interesting for us when we go out and visit different chapters to see how they do things slightly different to us in respect of the ritual and what have you. So, Iain, have you got any experiences of Royal Arch?
So I'm, as you know, still fairly new to Royal Arch. I only joined about 2 years ago, and I waited a little bit longer till I'd been through the chair. I don't know why I waited, but I waited till I'd been through the chair in craft to go to the Royal Arch, and I kind of wish I'd done it maybe a little bit sooner, but I thought it was very interesting, the ceremony. I didn't know what to expect, but some say it's the completion, and obviously you can join the Royal Arch 4 weeks after you've been made a Master Mason. So that's the time that you have to wait. So as soon as after you've been made a Master Mason, 4 weeks later you can join the Royal Arch. You don't have to be through the ladder or anything like that. But I decided to wait, and this is part of everyone's journey is different. Everyone's Freemason's path can go in different ways, but joining the Royal Arch then opens up a lot more doors to other things, and I'm sure we'll go down that rabbit hole at some point. But yeah, you have to be a member of the Royal Arch to join other orders, and that was one of my driving things for joining the Royal Arch. But yeah, no, I'm learning that. I'm enjoying that. It's something different, and no, it's great. It is colourful, as you've said. It's symbolically important. It's the completion, and I think it was very interesting. But there's only not like craft. We have 3 ceremonies in craft. There's just the one ceremony for Royal Arch, and that's interesting. So, and I'm really looking forward to the episode where we can delve in a little bit deeper, and we'll get some good guests on to talk about that, and we'll sort that out pretty shortly. So that we're really excited to talk about that and see where that goes, because I think it'd be a good learning environment for me as well, because I'm still learning about the Royal Arch. But it's a constant learning thing. So what roles then have you found the most enjoyable, and why?
In a craft lodge, yeah. I really enjoyed being worshipful master. I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because there's like an eternal question of, is the worshipful master really in charge of the lodge, or is it the past master? I mean, we used to think it was the secretary of our lodge was probably in charge.
See, for me though, I kind of feel like it's the director of ceremonies a little bit, because I always notice that the master looks to the director of ceremony for prompts of where we're going, but it is the master. It is the master, but sometimes you have these little nuances where...
Yes, you do. Yeah.
We were in a lodge, and the secretary, he used to rule it like a rod of iron, didn't he? And
Yes.
when we had our committee meetings, the worshipful master was very much sidelined as the secretary just ran them.
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
he was a lovely old fella, but he didn't take any messing about, did he?
No. And sometimes that's what you need to be quite frank. No messing about. But yeah, I think going back to what I was saying, I think Worshipful Master is definitely my favourite. It's there's a lot to do when you Worshipful Master. There's a lot to remember, but I got a heck of a lot out of it actually. What about yourself?
It's certainly the most challenging role, I would say, the Worshipful Master, because obviously you've got to probably learn something different for each meeting that you're going to be in charge of, because hopefully during your Masonic year you'll have a first degree to conduct, a second degree to conduct, and a third degree to induct. Then you've got to learn for the installation, you've got to learn all your openings and your closings in the 3 degrees. So there is a heck of a lot to learn when you're Worshipful Master, and a lot to kind of take in and remember. So it is the most challenging role, but I think it is the most rewarding as well.
So, Jess, what would you say then to a newly raised brother who's just done his 3rd degree and he's thinking about the future of his lodge? What would your advice and guidance be as to the ladder, or what their next steps should be, or Royal Arch in 4 weeks, or what would you think?
I would say don't rush into anything. Take your time. Don't necessarily go straight onto the ladder if you don't want to. Don't feel pressured to join any of the other degrees, because people will kind of quite quickly start saying, well, think about joining this chapter here, or have you thought about, going into the Mark Masonry and things like this. And if you're not careful, and I made this mistake, pretty soon you're a member of, a chapter, Mark degree, you'll be joining other craft lodges as well. And, pretty much your entire time then is consumed by Masonry. So you do really have to, I think, take your time, take stock, think carefully about where you want your Masonic career to go, and then just work towards that.
I'd completely agree with that. No, I mean, I think don't rush into anything, as you say. Do take your time, but also ask for advice. See what other people think. What have their experiences been? Because you just, at the end of the day, you've just got to do what's right for you, haven't you? And no one else can tell you what's right for you.
I'm going to put it out there. I know absolutely nothing about Mark Masonry. Like, I could not give you any indication about what that is about. And I don't know if that's just me being negligent. I don't know, but it's just not something that I've ever come across to a certain degree. I don't know any of the direction where it's going. So and it's just not something that's been on my radar. And I know that's one of the bigger side degrees, for example, and I think it'd be maybe even good to get them on here and explore what that's about.
It's known as the friendly degree, and it's a lot more informal when you're in the lodge room. Obviously there's still work to be done in the lodge room, and they do take it seriously, but they also are, a little bit more jovial with it, and it is fun, Mark Masonry.
Okay. I'm excited to learn a bit more about that, and I'm excited to learn about all of the side orders. And I saw an email the other day about they're doing something in January to talk about all the side orders.
Yes, I've seen that email.
Yeah. So that would be good, maybe to go and explore that. I think it's in Runcorn, in January. So that might be exciting to explore that and sort of talk about that. But so. I know the next section that we've got to talk about, it's a very exciting section. We've had a listener request. So Worshipful Brother Craig Lambert sent in some questions to us guys on the podcast, which is really exciting. And we really want to encourage you guys, the listeners, to get in contact with us and put stuff forward. But yeah, so over to you, Keith, for our first question.
Okay, so we have mentioned this tonight as part of the ladder conversation. So, what is an installation?
So, I'll happily take that one. So, the installation, what I understand of the installation is, it is the ceremony that we conduct to install a new master. So, every year we basically vote on there's nominations for who's going to be the worshipful master for the next year. That then gets passed, and then we have a special evening. For my lodge, it's the first meeting of the Masonic year. I know that different lodges do it and put it at different times in the year, but for us, ours is always the first meeting of the year, which is the October meeting, and we do the installation meeting on that. And so anyone who's not been installed as a master is not allowed to see that ceremony, so you get kicked out, and so it's done to install a new master into the chair of King Solomon, as it is, it's just to put the new leader into the chair. Hopefully that sort of summarizes it. Neil, do you have anything else to add to that, to my definition of?
No, that's a perfectly succinct summing up of what we do at the installation.
Yeah. Okay, so then, Neil, can you tell our listeners what makes a brother? Not like you're my brother, by the way. I mean, what makes a brother in Freemasonry?
Well, you become a brother once you've been initiated, passed, and then raised in the regular 3 degrees of a lodge. But what they would call becoming a member in full standing within the craft. And once you've done that, you are a brother.
Right, okay.
So, Keith, then, what makes someone worshipful? So we refer to them as worshipful master or worshipful brother. What is that?
Okay, so as I understand it, the worshipful is used for the master of a lodge. So once you're installed in the chair of a lodge, you accept the title as worshipful, and you are addressed as the worshipful master of the lodge or worshipful brother in that office. And then that sits with you all the time that you're in the master's chair. And so that carries along with you along your Masonic journey.
Yeah, so once you've been through the chair, you're always worshipful.
Yes, you are, yeah.
But it's nothing to do with religion or anything like
that. No.
It's just a show of respect.
Yeah, it's a show of respect that you've been through the chair of a lodge and you've done that.
Yeah, so then obviously you've become worshipful. So we call them then worshipful brother to show that they've been through the chair of a lodge. But there's further progression that you can then make, which is very worshipful. So who'd like to tell us about what they think very worshipful is?
My understanding of it is you become very worshipful once you have received the rank of at least Grand Sword Bearer, Grand Superintendent of Works, or Grand Inspector, or you've held roles such as Grand Secretaries, a Grand Chancellor, or President of the Masonic Charitable Foundation. Once you've held a role like that, you become very worshipful.
Yes, but you could be installed in that as a past Grand Sword Bearer. You don't actually have to be an active role. It could be a past. So you can either get put in as an active role or a non-active role that's.
Yes, and so if you get you're told that your promotion this year, you are going in as past Grand Sword Bearer, it means that you can say that you were Sword Bearer, but you don't have to actually do the job.
Correct. Yeah. But so that would be a rank that is from the United Grand Lodge of England. So it's not a provincial rank. So this is a very complicated subject, and which I think took me forever to understand
with flowcharts.
With flowcharts and everything like that. So the way I can best, I think, describe it is that there's the ladder in your lodge, and then that is then sort of gets repeated a little bit, and all them roles get repeated at provincial level, which is like an area level. So you can get ranks.
Which starts 7 years after you come out of the Worshipful Master's chair. You get your first position on the provincial ladder, is that correct?
No, not necessarily, because I got mine 2 years.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So,
Depends what you do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you do. That I think there is times where after so many years you then get the next rank, but it's not defined, and I think that's within the gift of the provincial grandmaster and the provincial team to decide. Because
if you're seen to be contributing a lot to Freemasonry, and you're doing lots of things over and above your general Masonic role in a lodge, then it can come early.
Okay,
for you.
But the standard practice would be 7 years.
7 years, I think that's right. Yes, I'm sure somebody will write in and correct us if we're wrong.
It's an answer I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look that one up. But then to get very worshipful, back to what we were talking about, is that you have to then get promoted above the area level to national level, to a national level role, which is Grand Sword Bearer.
So that we could call Grand Lodge officers then?
Yeah, correct. Okay, and then the last question, Neil, do you want to read out?
Yeah, what makes somebody right worshipful?
Well, right worshipful is the title used for senior provincial or Grand Lodge officers. So, for example, a deputy Grand Master or a provincial Grand Master.
Not necessarily a deputy.
No, it's all rather complicated, this, isn't it? So, if we were looking at it right worshipful, then it can be things like present and past deputy Grand Masters, assistant Grand Masters, metropolitan, provincial and district Grand Masters, district Grand Masters, Grand Wardens and presidents of the Board of General Purpose. And if you can't tell, I have got that written down in front of me. So it signals senior leadership and high rank in the Masonic hierarchy. So as Iain said, you kind of like, you go through your ladder in your lodge, and then there's also other ladders within province and within Grand Lodge Masonry as well.
Wheels within wheels.
Yeah, and then obviously there's the final rank, which is above right worshipful, which is most worshipful, and that's reserved for the pro Grand Master and past Grand Masters and past pro Grand Masters. So the Grand Master is also most worshipful. So that's the really, really high up top people in the organization. They get the rank of most worshipful. So there's that little bit of a structure there. You can get worshipful, which most people get from when they were through the chair, to then very worshipful, right worshipful, and then at the top is most worshipful. Jess, do you have anything to add on them questions? Hopefully we've done worshipful Brother Craig proud with our summing up of his questions, but it was great to explore them questions, and please keep them coming.
Yeah, and as you can tell, it's not for even for those of us that have been in Masonry a while. It's not a straightforward thing for us to kind of like understand sometimes how things work within provincial or Grand Lodge Masonry.
Well, it's drawn some reading out for me tonight, so I'm going to go and look in the Book of Constitutions maybe later as to how long it is until after you get worshipful, till you get your next promotion, because off the top of my head, I don't know. So there's learning everywhere, which is good.
Yeah. And that's
daily advancement.
And that's it, isn't it? It's like a Freemasonry is a constant journey of learning, isn't it? And I think that's part of it, that we do always discover different things.
Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning into this episode of Square Talking. I hope you've enjoyed it and that we've increased your knowledge and understanding of how Freemasonry works. Now, you can always follow us on our socials. We're on Instagram, and that's at Cheshire PGL. You can find us on our website, cheshirefreemasons.org.uk/square talking, or you can email us at podcast@cheshiremasons.co.uk, and I believe we are also on the TikTok. So thanks, Iain and Keith, for helping on this journey of Masonic knowledge this week. And I hope you'll join us again in the next episode. So it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
Thanks for coming on the journey with us. It's goodbye from me.